Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. The Young and the Restless, Queen Diane marking Abbott territory should Jack forbid mansion refresh. The Young and the Restless YNR spoilers reveal that Queen Diane Jenkins Abbott Susan Walters is marking the Abbott territory, so should Jack Abbott Peter Bergman forbid her mansion refresh idea. Although Jack agreed to consider Diane's renovation plan in the end, he's definitely got some reservations. In some ways, we can understand why Diane still feels like an outsider with all those Abbott memories surrounding her. The place is crammed full of Abbott family history, so we can't entirely blame Diane for wanting to leave her mark on the place. Diane wants to see a little of herself in the Abbott home, which makes sense considering she's Jack's wife. In the grand scheme of things, it's perhaps not all that much to ask. At the same time, Diane's motives are rubbing some viewers the wrong way, since it's like she's got something to prove. Jack is clearly uncomfortable with changing the family home he's loved for decades, so is Diane overstepping boundaries here. There's also the timing to consider, since this is happening not too long after Victor Newman's Eric Braeden Ranch recreation gift for Nikki Newman Melody Thomas Scott. Diane denied that her idea had anything to do with that, since she's proposing updates and not recreating some relic. Even so, maybe Diane feels the need to keep up with Victor and Nikki on some level. On social media, some YNR fans are insisting that Jack needs to shut Diane down and keep the Abbott mansion the way it is. Others agree with Tracy Abbott Beth Maitland and have to admit the place could use some sprucing up. There's a good chance Diane is going to get her way in the end, so the Abbott house could indeed look a tad different once she's through. Jack will probably love it once it's done, but this simple mansion revamp could be a hint about much bigger problems down the road. This may only be the beginning of Diane testing limits and asserting what she wants. If Diane keeps finding new ways to push Jack, our predictions hint it could lead to trouble in their marriage. The Young and the Restless spoilers say bad news could be brewing if Diane and Jack continue to argue over issues like this, so stay tuned to see what's in store. Diane Jenkins had been called many things in her lifetime: a temptress, a schemer, a woman reborn. But there was one title she had never claimed before, and now, as she surveyed the grand halls of the Abbott mansion, she felt it in her bones: Queen. Queen of this house, Queen of Jack's heart, and Queen of the future she was determined to shape. For years, Diane had been a woman on the outside looking in, but her resurrection from presumed death had given her a second chance. This time, she wasn't wasting a moment. Marrying Jack Abbott had been her coup de grace, the move that solidified her position in the family, but as she walked through the mansion, she realized there was still one battle left to fight, marking her territory. The Abbott estate was a monument to legacy, the echoes of John Abbott's discipline and tradition woven into every polished wood panel and glimmering chandelier. But Diane was no mere guest or passing wife, she was here to stay, and she intended to make the house reflect her presence. Gone were the days when she played the outsider. Now, she wanted change. She needed change. It started with small things: a new floral arrangement here, a subtle shift in decor there. But the real transformation required more than fresh roses and silk drapes. The mansion was frozen in time, much like the Abbott family's view of her, and Diane wanted both to evolve. Jack, she began one evening as they sat in the sitting room, the fire casting golden hues against the dark cherry wood bookshelves. I was thinking it's time for a bit of a refresh around here. Jack, sipping his bourbon, arched an eyebrow. A refresh? Nothing drastic, she reassured him, smiling. Just a few updates. Maybe new furniture in the living room, redoing the study. Fresh energy. Jack leaned back, setting his glass down with a soft clink. Diane, this house has been in the family for generations. It carries history. And history is wonderful, Diane said smoothly, shifting closer to him. But so is growth. Jack hesitated. He loved Diane, he truly did, but change was never easy for an abbot. This house was more than just walls and furniture, it was the foundation of his family's identity. His father had built it into a home filled with tradition and values, and Jack had carried that forward. Sensing his resistance, Diane softened her approach. Jack, I want this place to reflect us, our future together. I don't want to erase the past, I want to embrace it while making room for the life we're building. Jack exhaled, running a hand through his silvered hair. What exactly are you suggesting? Diane beamed, knowing she had an opening. We start small. A new color palette, modern touches, just enough to make it feel like a home for both of us. It wasn't lost on Jack that modern touches could be a slippery slope. He had seen firsthand how one new coffee table could spiral into an entire home renovation. But, looking at Diane, he saw something he hadn't in years: true happiness, a woman ready to build a future with him, not against him. Before he could reply, the sound of a throat clearing interrupted them. Kyle stood in the doorway, arms crossed. So, you're redecorating now? Diane smiled, but there was an edge of steel in her gaze. Just to refresh. Kyle smirked. I'm sure the rest of the family will love that. There it was. The unspoken war of Abbott tradition versus Diane's assertion of her place in it. She knew Ashley, Tracy, and even Billy would have opinions, and Phyllis, well, Phyllis would probably have a meltdown at the mere suggestion of Diane altering even a lampshade. But Diane was prepared. She had spent years fighting to reclaim her life, her son, and now her husband. The house was the final piece of the puzzle. Kyle chuckled. You know how my Aunt Ashley is. She's going to see this as another power move. Diane kept her smile serene. Ashley sees everything as a power move. But this isn't about control, Kyle. It's about making a home. Kyle studied her, then looked at Jack. You really okay with this? Jack sighed, then turned to Diane. How small are we talking? Diane laughed, a warm, victorious sound. Let's start with the drapes. But even as she spoke, she knew this was only the beginning. The Abbott mansion would change. She would change it. Because queens didn't just sit on thrones, they ruled. And Diane was finally ready to claim her kingdom.